There's a place in Hawaii where the earth never stops burning. A lava lake, one of only a handful on the entire planet. A crater filled with molten rock that never cools, never sleeps, glowing red through a crust of black stone. On January 13, 2022, scientists rushed to save their monitoring equipment before the lava swallowed it whole. But that wasn't the biggest story on the island that day. Because not far from that volcano, in a quiet clinic, there was a man everyone simply called the Healer. His real name was John Takahara, the island's best acupuncturist. People came to him in pain and they left better. He never turned anyone away, even the ones who couldn't pay. He gave scholarships to students. That same night, an elderly woman sat alone in her kitchen, dinner untouched. Her son was supposed to come by, he always did, but he never showed. The next morning she drove to check on him at his clinic. She opened the door, and there on the floor in a pool of blood was her son. John Takahara had been shot 4 times in the head. Detectives pulled every camera they could find. Most of it showed nothing but an ordinary day, until one figure caught their eye. A person dressed head to toe in black, despite the warm Hawaiian weather. Long jacket, long pants, and a wide white bucket hat pulled down low enough to hide their entire face. The figure walked toward John's clinic with purpose, then suddenly stopped. Turned away, turned back, like they were arguing with themselves. Then they went inside. 48 seconds later, they walked back out. As they crossed the street, the wind caught the brim of that white hat and lifted it clean off their head. Long hair spilled out from underneath. Hair investigators would later believe was a wig. And the strangest part? The figure never even reacted. They just kept walking, leaving the hat behind to be run over in the street. 10 days later, police tracked that hat down. It had ended up, of all places, tucked beside a homeless man's tent. He told them he'd simply found it on the street and worn it once. That hat, whoever it truly belonged to, was about to become the center of everything. Enter Eric and Joyce Thompson. High school sweethearts turned millionaires, now raising a young daughter together in a multi-million-dollar home on the water. From the outside, it looked like the kind of love story people write songs about. But Eric noticed something was off. Small things at first. A restaurant she swore they'd been to. A phone that was suddenly always face down. A habit of saying I instead of we. Then, during a work trip, his home security camera sent him an alert. Joyce was leaving the house, alone, for 40 minutes with their 1-year-old daughter asleep inside. When Eric got home, he confronted her. After a long night of arguing, she finally told him the truth. She was having an affair. And it hit even harder when she said the name. John Takahara. The same man who had helped them conceive their daughter in the first place. It had started during Joyce's struggle with fertility. John's acupuncture had helped her get pregnant. Then after giving birth, she found herself struggling again. This time with what sounds very much like postpartum depression. She went back to see him, and somewhere in that vulnerable place an affair began. It lasted around 2 months and it was intense. Thousands of messages exchanged in just weeks. But eventually Joyce ended it. She told John she wasn't going to leave her husband. He wanted more than that. 6 months later, in an effort to rebuild trust, Joyce herself suggested something unusual, a postnuptial agreement. If they ever divorced, Eric would get everything. The house, the money, full custody of their daughter. Joyce would walk away with nothing. And buried in that agreement was one strange specific clause. Joyce was never ever allowed to see a psychic again. The reasoning? She claimed a psychic had once told her that having the affair was the right thing to do. They signed it. And 12 days later, Joyce went to see a psychic anyway. 2 weeks after that postnup was signed, John Takahara was dead. Police dug through John's phone and found thousands of messages leading them to it. At least 3 men with reasons to be angry or son, including 2 other husbands whose wives had also seen John. One had reformatted his entire phone right before police could search it, then immediately regretted saying that wasn't suspicious. But the evidence kept circling back to Eric. A white pickup truck, the same model as one spotted near the clinic, registered in his name. A silver toolbox that mysteriously disappeared from the back of his truck the day before the murder, and reappeared the day after. And that same night his backyard lit up orange. Neighbors' cameras caught what looked like a fire. Police later found a bucket with burned residue inside. Eric said he was just burning tiki torches for the bugs. Eric Thompson was arrested and charged with murder. He posted bail and went home to await trial, his wife standing by him the entire way, sitting behind him in the courtroom gallery every single day. The prosecution argued this wasn't a crime of passion. It happened 6 months after the affair ended, which meant it had to be something colder, calculated, controlling, deliberate. The defense argued there was no real evidence at all. Just a similar truck, a similar walk, a wig that was never found, and a case built on coincidence. One of the other husbands took the stand, clearly furious about even being there. And then came a serious blow to the prosecution's case. An FBI audit revealed that the police department's DNA testing methods hadn't been properly validated. The DNA sample lifted from inside the white bucket hat, the strongest piece of physical evidence tying Eric to the crime, was thrown out. Without cell tower data, without solid forensics, the first trial ended in a mistrial. The jury couldn't even agree on whether the person in the white hat was a man or a woman. A second trial followed. This time the jury reached a verdict: guilty. At sentencing, John's family stood before the court. His sister spoke of the day their lives changed forever, the day, she said, evil showed its face. John's mother, the same woman who had found her son's body, sat through every day of both trials with quiet composure. Eric Thompson was sentenced to prison, eligible for parole after 15 years. The clinic where John once healed strangers for free now sits quiet. And somewhere in that house on the water, a little girl is growing up, old enough someday to ask her mother exactly what happened to her father. Online, the arguments never stopped. Some blamed John, some blamed Joyce. Most believed Eric did it, but probably was never going to be enough for a courtroom. So I'll leave you with the question everyone still asks. Who do you think really did it?